Alrighty. This might be a controversial topic, especially in places like Reddit or Twitter, where people really come down hard against this sort of thing. But I wanted to talk about lollies and accusing people of being pedophiles online. I mean, it's gotten so out of hand that people are genuinely looking at, like, say, the movie Promare, right? Made by the same people that did, Gurren Lagann, and accusing it of pedophilia because there's a height gap between the two main characters. Quote from an actual person that believes this: problematic height gap, aka pedophilia. That is a genuine quote that exists in a non-parody format. The things that get accused of, like, lolicon and pedophilia these days is off the fucking hook. Like, okay, full transparency, for my background and my stake in this, beyond just thinking one side is just misguided and illogical. To be absolutely honest, here, this is the youngest looking character that I personally consider attractive. Angie Onaga from DRV3. So, I mean, if you consider this to be a lolly or not, that's your prerogative. I don't think many people consider Angie to be a lolly. I just think she's a hot, petite, tan girl. Beyond that, my stake in this also stems from being a strong advocate for creative freedom. I will almost always support the creator of a piece of art or media, and I will support their right to make whatever the fuck they want. That is the extent of my bias regarding this topic. The rest of what I have to say is just my logically based opinion, my actual thoughts on it. So, where to start? Why don't we talk about the assumptions that people make? I mean, extremely common in all opinions, even outside of media, for someone to assume something of a person they disagree with, to try to rationalize in their mind, why they think the way they do. The reason why they do this is because most people, when they see something they disagree with, what frustrates them is not the fact that the other person disagrees with them, it's the fact that they can't bridge the gap in understanding. They can't understand why the person has the opinions they do. So a lot of people just make shit up. For this topic, consider, like, My Little Pony. There's a somewhat substantial audience of adults that actually enjoy My Little Pony and watch it, and so to people outside of that group who don't like My Little Pony as adults, they start trying to rationalize why that group likes the show. They can't come to terms with the fact that someone would like something that they don't, so instead they think of a flaw in the person that they disagree with as an excuse for why they like it. Many people assume that these adults that watch ponies have some sort of sexual fetish that is being scratched by the show. Like, oh, you must be this sick pervert, and that's the only explanation for you to like something that I don't like, right? It's because there's something wrong with you. And, of course, the vast majority of that community that watches My Little Pony is not watching it in a sexual manner. Just find brony videos and they'll talk about why they like it. People tend to do the same thing with moe animes, like K-On! If they don't get the appeal or have a bias against it, they assume something's wrong with the person that enjoys it. Like, they must be sexually attracted to the moe blob anime characters in order to enjoy that kind of content. Even just recently, like earlier today, Aliun said some hilariously stupid shit on Twitter, where he claimed that he was holding a moral high ground, that he refused to play Skullgirls because he wouldn't play a game with lollies in it. There are no lollies in Skullgirls. For those of you not aware, not in the know, there is one small girl that is mostly a weird-looking robot named Peacock who is animated in a way that's meant to be a throwback to 1930s style animation, like Steamboat Willie. So like sticks or lines for arms instead of like actual body parts or anything. So not a lolly at all in the first place. And to top it off, that character isn't even sexualized in the slightest to begin with. It makes about as much sense as someone calling you a pedophile for being a fan of Peter Dinklage, right? It's fucking stupid. But there are still people that take this weird stance where they try to go out of their way to call things lollies or lolicon, and then act like they're taking this moral path by shitting on it or the people that like it. To instantly assume a sexual connotation out of everything just because you're too ignorant or too lazy to learn what the true appeal is, that's just silly. The same thing generally happens in the vast majority of circumstances involving accusations of pedophilia or drawings or anime on the internet. Some delusional jackass either doesn't like the content himself, or he's already been trained to be on the lookout for anything he can call pedophilia, because he thinks that he's in the right to do so. He's eager to accuse anyone of wrongdoing, usually for the sake of, virtue signaling and the high that people get when they attack other people. The foundations of bullying and why people enjoy doing that. I would say, from what I've seen on the internet, from people who get called pedophiles, I would say 99%, probably more, of percent of people that get accused of being pedophiles for expressing that they like something that some people might say resembles a child, that 99% are not attracted to real-life children. I don't mean to fucking splash you with the cold water, but the people who view those characters as attractive just don't look at it that way, They see them as petite, most likely, or like an unrealistically small person that still has, the curves or features of a mature adult. Look what else comes out of anime and anime-inspired things. You have monster girls and anthropomorphic cat girls and so on. There's so many things that are taken and then morphed into a sexualized figure. It doesn't mean that someone who finds it attractive is attracted to the thing that it's morphed from. People that like full-haired anthropomorphic cat girls aren't about to fucking commit bestiality with real cats. The misunderstandings and false assumptions about why people find something attractive are just really out there. This also comes down to what gets called a lolly. Since the word itself is very vague. Some people call a character a lolly because they look young, some people simply because they're short and petite, some because the character acts immature and probably also looks somewhat young, some people because the character is canonically underage. Some people, rather than taking an issue with people who are attracted to something they see as a child, some people instead, criticize the actual media itself for, sexualizing underage characters, quote unquote. Now, this is pretty uneven and often falls on people criticizing characters that appear to be smaller or have younger looking features rather than characters that are canonically underage, like Yoko from Gurren Lagann, who is 14 years old but doesn't look like it. But even in situations like, say, Persona or Danganronpa, where they say that it's wrong to sexualize the underage characters, let's talk about that. So first of all, that first implies that it's wrong to sexualize underage characters in completely fictional media in the first place. But let's put that point aside for now, the fact that they're not real people, and come back to it later. The Danganronpa accusation is a fucking joke, considering that all the characters in, say, the first and second DR games are definitely of legal age, as they've all had 2 years of their memories removed, even beyond what age they think that they are. And we know that Yasuhiro is at least 23 years old. But to act like the Persona girls are underage and thus shouldn't be sexualized presents a few problems. The first problem is that they definitely are of legal age in Japan, the country and the culture where the story is from. In addition to the fact that Japanese people just look naturally younger than Western people in real life, and so they tend to draw their representations of themselves as younger looking. But anyways, now, as a Westerner, you may not care and might demand that characters be at least 18, regardless of what country they're actually from and what the cultural acceptance is there. But then you run into another problem. The legal age of consent in the U.S. is also fluctuating based on the state. Sure, 18 is the max age set by the federal government, but at the state level, the majority of states actually set the age of consent at 16. So you're already way off the mark for whining about 16-year-olds in Persona being sexualized. The second problem, and the one I think is actually more prominent and something that people don't really think of or understand. A character being attractive doesn't automatically imply that they are of a sexual age or have achieved sexual maturity. I don't know if you recall your time as a teenager, but kids are concerned about how attractive they are and are attracted to others of similar age before they're of legal age to consent. People care about being attractive. People date. People make out. It doesn't mean that they're having sex at that age. If a game is about school kids and is primarily marketed towards school kids who play games, it makes perfect sense that an audience of 16-year-old gamers would want to see attractive girls of a similar age. It's not weird, and it's not pedophilia. I would say most shit involving, making underage characters attractive in some way is usually part of a story that's meant to be consumed by people of that age demographic. Like teen drama romances or trashy light novels or shit. I mean, so that honestly should be enough right there to debunk the majority of these nonsensical claims of pedophilia on the internet. But I'll take it a step further than that. This is the part that I think most people will actually disagree with, and that's fine. The rest of my argument still stands, but I do think that this is an important distinction that needs to be made. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that even in the rare circumstance where someone likes looking at lollies sexually because they are attracted to children, including in real life, even then, I don't believe it's grounds for harassment and outrage. I mean, obviously nothing is really grounds for harassment and outrage. It's petty and it solves nothing, but you know what I mean. Here's the reason, okay? Even if someone is genuinely a pedophile, they aren't hurting real people by consuming lolicon fictional media. I'm talking about pedophiles specifically, not actual child sex offenders. The difference being a person who's attracted to children and someone who is actually breaking the law. People who break the law and hurt real people, especially real children, should be punished with all the federal body's might. Fuck them. However, just because someone has a fetish does not mean that they are acting upon that fetish. Just because someone likes to role-play rape or anything like that, or has some fetish that they indulge in a fictional setting, does not mean that they don't know right from wrong. They would never condone it in the real world. People should be judged and criticized for their real-world actions, and if they're actually hurting people, not if they just have weird fetishes that they indulge in only in fiction, using cartoons in their own privacy. I mean, what people fantasize about is their fucking business. If they aren't hurting anyone else, and they know right from wrong, just leave them be. I mean, like I'm attracted to, normal, of-age, regular women. I'm not going around fucking breaking the law, kidnapping and raping people. I understand the difference. I like having money. I'd like to be rich. I'm not going out conducting fucking Ponzi schemes or robbing banks. But yeah, no, like I said, vast majority of people not attracted to children at all. They just look at it differently. If you accuse someone of looking like a child, the people who like that look at it differently. Oftentimes aren't even looking at it sexually in the first place. Grow the fuck up. So yeah, I really think people just need to calm the fuck down with accusing anything and everything of pedophilia these days. I mean, yes, it's a real problem in the world, actual child exploitation. It's a real problem, and it's sickening, okay? But acting like a headless chicken and pointing the finger of blame to fucking anything in sight that you can remotely spin as contributing to the real world atrocities that do get committed, that's just outright lunacy. If you really care about those sorts of issues, there's so many better ways to tackle them, using charities or contributing to organizations that fight against child prostitution and pornography and abuse. If you really care, do that instead. You're not doing anything but just giving yourself a pat on the back to stroke your own ego when you quote unquote call out someone for liking a character that you deem to be too childlike. That's all you're doing at that point. But anyways, yeah, just wanted to talk about for a second, like I said, I don't I didn't even need anyone to agree with my last point about actual pedophiles, but yeah, that's pretty much the point I wanted to make. I've been seeing more and more hilarious examples of people calling things, people accusing things of pedophilia on the internet. It's been getting worse and worse by the year. The hilarious shit that they accuse. And yeah, I mean, especially with today, seeing Aliun fucking take this high ground and talk about that he refuses to play Skullgirls because there's a lolly in the game, which there's not. What a fucking joke. But anyways, yeah, that's all. See ya.